I will start for the new people, especially with just a little description of what is energy healing. And then from there, we'll go into our 3 minutes of silence. So we kind of connect up to the resource for all energy healing. And then I'll do a review of yesterday's session, just briefly. And then we'll dive into more developing all the themes and topics from yesterday in a more complete way for today. All right. What is energy healing? Energy healing is built on the premise that all that is material in this world is born of the immaterial. That consciousness precedes matter. And that we are experts in consciousness because that's, well, besides that that's what we're made of, it's also it's also that we have some autonomous control because we can focus our awareness wherever we want to focus it. And when we're focusing awareness, what we're really doing is we're concentrating a flow of consciousness, perception, onto wherever we put our attention. And that because awareness is consciousness, and it is the stuff of which the universe is comprised, and it is the foundational material of which the universe is comprised. So it's like the source material that we have within our personal access. We have personal access to an ability to move the source of creation. To move source material, certainly. And because the source of creation is fairly well defined, there's a certain amount, and you should know my background's Vedic, basically. So sometimes I use Vedic terms. I'll try to be sure to just let you know if there's a term that comes up that maybe you're not familiar with. But the idea here is that consciousness has specific qualities. It's infinite, unbounded, eternal, all-pervading. It's being, it's the home of all the laws of nature. It has certain types of internal dynamics, how the silence and the dynamism in there kind of roll in on each other like that. So there are a lot of qualities that consciousness has. So when you bring your attention to some part of yourself that's not feeling great, you're bringing these qualities. You're bringing qualities of absolute good, absolutely life-supporting, absolutely nourishing and uplifting and transformative and so forth. So we all have this ability. We all have the ability to do this. And in these energy healing live webinars, we're not just using the dynamics of consciousness and the dynamics of this gift that we have as humans to heal ourselves. We're working together as a collective to heal ourselves and heal the collective at the same time. There's a lot of collective healing that goes on. Yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice, and I'm really happy you're all here with me. And we're going to do this today. We're going to go back and forth between the experience of moving the energy and then describing and understanding, okay, what did we just do and how did we do it, or what are we doing and how are we doing it, so that when we put those two values together of both the experience and the understanding, then we come up with a formula that integrates and stabilizes your ability to do energy healing, your ability to leverage your gift of being able to focus your attention just like anything and to put it where it needs to go and to put it in at the right angle so that you get the right result. You get the result you're looking for. All right, so thank you everyone for being with me. Why do we do 3 minutes of silence at the beginning? Because the source of creation is accessed through the inward stroke of awareness, through the inward stroke of the mind. So we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to close the eyes and we're going to just let the awareness settle down to the inside. Take a little inward dive and just enjoy the silence. It's deep inside. It does deep inside the foundation. The foundation of all we know is our mind and our thinking and our awareness like that. All I'm going to say let's close our eyes. We'll take about 3 minutes, and after 3 minutes we will ask you to open the eyes. I'll ask you, and then we'll take about a minute to come out of this silence, because the more slowly we come out, the better we integrate the silence. All right, thank you. Let's close our eyes. All right, let's slowly open the eyes. Take a minute. Did I say we do a prayer of gratitude? If I didn't, I failed. So now we will do a prayer of gratitude. Thank you to the source of creation for being everything. Thank you for being all of us. Thank you to Mother Divine for being everything. Thank you to Mother Divine for being the whole source of creation and the whole manifest field of creation and us. And thank you to our ancestors for their contributions to the quality of life that we live today and to the amazing bodies that we run around in. Like, what a gift. Thank you to the eternal tradition of wisdom for building that bridge of knowledge that connects the absolute unmanifest field of creation with the manifest field of creation. May our live webinar today be highly successful. May we be efficient and to the point, on point. May we address everybody's concerns. Everybody who's here receive amazing healing that meets and exceeds your hopes and expectations for what we can accomplish today, as far as personal healing for each one of you here, as well as cutting to the core or the seed of any karmas or imbalances that might be appropriate for us to address at a larger level of creation. Thank you all for allowing me to be the voice of our group. It's always so nice to be with you. I love it. So, yes, there's a prayer of gratitude. Thank you. Okay. I wanted to do a little brief review of yesterday. And then because so many questions came in, I thought best to probably, as has been the pattern over the last several months, is to go ahead and begin addressing questions. I see we've got questions coming in here. I should open my question box. So yeah, we'll answer questions, and through the questions we can, more healings can come out and more addressing of this topic, which is a really important topic. And there's still some points that I didn't get out yesterday that I'd like to continue to share today. So thanks everyone for being with me. All right, yesterday, what happened? A little bit of time at the beginning was spent sort of just describing what is Mother Divine, like I'm using this word, Mother Divine, what does she even mean by that? And then also describing the role of love in the healing process and how it factors in. And one of the things I didn't say yesterday, although I've said previously, but it's well worth a little repeat, especially for the new people, is that in our culture, we're often encouraged to meet difficult situations and challenges with love and compassion and understanding and forgiveness, right? And if something doesn't work out well, we're often encouraged to, well, just give it a little more love. You can give more. Oh, that didn't work out the way you liked it. You should give more, right? And so I bring this up because last night I was mentioning, it was night for me anyway, I was mentioning love in terms of its relationship to the other three legs of Dharma. That Dharma is this tool, it's an energy healing tool, essentially. Dharma is a Vedic word, and it means that which sustains the universe. And it has these four fundamentals. And of course, most of you are quite familiar with all that, but the principle here is that of the four fundamentals, the leg of truth, the fundamental of truth, is the most, I would say, most reliable as far as meeting almost any situation or circumstance. The leg of compassion is another one. And as I mentioned last night, the four legs or pillars of Dharma don't exactly correlate with their English counterparts or their English words. Truth probably correlates the most efficiently. But then there's like compassion and orderliness and tapas, which means letting go or austerity or non-attachment. But the compassion leg, it really needs all three of these legs here. They really need the leg of truth to hold them up, because not every situation that we face will benefit from you giving more. In fact, I think it was the previous webinar, maybe, there was some healing for a martyrdom complex or martyrdom mentality, because there's it's so sort of deeply enmeshed in our culture that if things go wrong, you need to give more. When sometimes the solution is not about giving and giving and giving until you're dried up and wrung out like an old rag, but more right? And believe me, I'm trying to follow these principles in my own life. Believe me. Anyway, but rather that we want to work smarter, not harder. And sometimes situations call for setting healthy boundaries, or they call for changing things up in such a way that the underlying conditions that are causing you to give and give and give and feel like you're getting nothing from your efforts, just change the whole condition entirely. And we talked a little bit last night about anger and how a feeling of anger can be useful in that way, that it's an indicator. If anger rises up, it's an indicator that a larger change is needed at this time. Oh, it was a nice question. Somebody asked about that. All right, so that was one of the aspects of yesterday. The other thing was there was a beautiful long healing. I think we engaged a lot with ancestors. I think there was a big ancestral influence in the healing group last night. We were going back we were going back into the 1700s, I think all the way back to the early 1700s of supporting the ability of our ancestors to accept and integrate the reality that the source of creation is present in every expression in the material field. And so that for none of us, for all of us, and for that nobody's left out, essentially. That's what I meant by none of us, that nobody's left out from this place of security, that whatever comes forward into the material level of creation was essentially what needed to be at that time. And we are learning things that our ancestors didn't know about how to meet challenging situations so that our experience doesn't leave the physiology and the psychology damaged, so that we don't absorb stress just through the process of living, through the process of learning lessons and doing things that we needed to do. That's, life wasn't meant to live like that. We were meant to do better than that. And we're smart and we can do better than that. And so this is one of the reasons why, thank you that you are all here, that this is what we're doing with energy healing, is we're looking at, well, how do we work the field of consciousness, our inner, how do we approach our situations so that we come out like smelling like roses and also feeling good about what happened, even if circumstances or situations arose that were difficult or challenging. And I know a lot of people are with me today that also have physical challenges. And so, it's nice that my intention today is that we will be engaging these technologies in such a way as to also address people's physical concerns and drawing upon that, like, just immense resource of somebody just left the house. That immense resource of energy, intelligence, creativity, but also love. So the role of love, let's just go back a little bit, review. The role of love, or that second element, is that it catalyzes the healing process. And it does that in a couple of ways. And this ties in to a question. So I think we're moving ahead already. I think I reviewed from yesterday. So I can find that question. One of the ways that love catalyzes is that love sets up a condition in the heart center. We process the experience of love, and most of our emotions have to travel through the heart center in order to be processed. And love sets up a condition where we feel safe, essentially. We feel safe. That at least we feel worthy of healing. That when there's that feeling of I am loved, then along with that feeling is that sense of, well, then I deserve the resources that come to me for the sake of my healing process. The other way that love does that it supports the healing process, is love is a little bit more connected in with or associated with the elements of fire and water. And so it's like more of a movement-oriented thing. Whereas knowledge, which is the most powerful and most stable of the four legs of Dharma, knowledge or truth, pure knowledge, even pure knowingness we could put in there, it has a kind of a silent, static quality to it. It sits back more, as a foundation and it provides some resource for the healing process, but it doesn't like get the healing process going, which is what love does. And we talked a little bit last night, as I recall now, about the sort of the male and female aspects of God, because God, as I was describing it, or Mother Divine, as I was describing last night, is all inclusive. That means the concept of Mother Divine includes all the absolute and all the relative field of creation, all of it, the whole ball of wax. And the feminine aspects, we could say God there. I think that word is good term to use for all that is. But that mother is that aspect that emerges from the absolute, as mother's more the energy that's sort of moving toward the relative. So it's like the creative aspect that's responsible for the manifestation of the entire material realms of creation. Whereas the male aspect, I was going to say father or male aspect, is more going into the silence. It's more like that. It's kind of like a little bit more like the truth. And then the mother is like the love, something like that. Because how can we say as humans that God is one gender or another? I would say God would certainly be all inclusive. Anyway, yeah, there was a question about this. Oh, yes. So here was a beautiful set of questions that came in from locally, but just really wonderful. Please correlate or differentiate the flow of attention, awareness, and consciousness, the flow of love, and the flow of soma. Ooh, so for those of you who are new, soma is another Vedic term, and soma is a word that describes the finest byproduct of digestion, which is created in physical human body, but it is used not so much by our dense physical bodies. It is more used by the abstract levels of our being. So that means those very, very fine, very like non-physical aspects of who we are. So it means part of our consciousness, right? Part of the field of consciousness. And the specific aspects, the specific laws of nature of our consciousness that are responsible for healing, among other things, and also responsible for building the material creation. So those intelligences, those aspects of our internal intelligence, very fundamental, very ancient, yes, there are parts of your body that are ancient. Oh, we have our physical part of our body. It's not ancient. It's new. We've been living in it for a little while, and it only goes so many decades. But then there are other parts of us that are quite ancient. And so these are fed by soma, which is produced by the body, which is why bodies are valuable, not just at a material level, like, oh, I can use my body to do this and do that, but also my body feeds that level of my own being or my own nature, which is ancient. Pretty amazing, huh? It's like a system. So soma, that's soma. And attention is pure source material. So pure source material is more ultimately is a more abstract form of being, of Mother Divine, we could say. I love that you put these all three together as expressions of Mother Divine. It's very sweet. Thank you for this question. So we can say attention is like a really subtle, it actually is that unmanifest level of creation. And when we start to direct it, like focus, right? We focus our attention or awareness. We focus, I would say attention is focused awareness. So we're talking about, and her question is, flow of attention. The question is, what is flow of attention or flow of awareness and consciousness? That the awareness and consciousness is definitely the fundamental expression, or it's not even an expression, it just is that source material. So it's very, very abstract. It's very non-manifest, basically. And then soma is that material that's produced by the physiology that sort of, it falls back into the fine levels of the field of one's consciousness and the whole manifest level, and it nurtures and uplifts and upholds the ability for that unmanifest awareness to manifest as the first fundamental laws of nature that give rise to the universe. So our soma, it works down at that really deep level, right where awareness becomes something right there. And it's kind of a little bit, you can think of it like the fuel that allows that unmanifest awareness to become a flow of awareness, or to become an intention or desire, or all the different ways that our awareness moves up through the material level of creation. Love is a resonation of consciousness. So we could say, in a way, we could say that love is more like an isolated region of the causal field. And I'm using the word causal to describe that skin right against the absolute. So you've got the unmanifest level, and then you've got that little area where the soma goes to feed the laws of nature. And that little area, that it's not really little, it's quite big, and it's unconstrained by space and time, but it's part of our bodies and part of our being. That causal level of the body it portions off into different regions or areas, and in these areas, the light of divine being hums or resonates or vibrates in very specific ways. And love is a very specific resonation. It's not, love is different from truth, right? It's different from purity and cleanliness, and it's different from other emotions, all sorts of nuanced feelings that roll through our beings, right? But since we're talking about love, so I would say, yes, I'm trying to figure out if I was going to try to define which of these was the most like isolated or like manifest or something. And I'd say the thing about love is that love permeates the entire spectrum of the field of self. Soma is made at the surface, but its home is at the finest feeling level. Its home is in the causal body. But love, it permeates through the entire field. But if we go to its seed or its source, we see that there are specific laws of nature that are that directly give rise to the experience of love, and that support it and promote its flow. There was something else I was going to say about love, but I don't remember what it was. So it'll come back to me, I'm sure. But anyway, thank you for that beautiful question. And we will look at some more of your amazing questions as we're going along. But I'm going to go up here next. There's another question about love. The love of Mother Divine is infinite, and yet not everyone feels that love. That's a brilliant insight, isn't it? Right? Can we do a healing to dissolve the obstacles to experiencing the love of Mother Divine? Thank you for this beautiful question. It's so important. And on the note of this question, I need to bring up one more point, which, because as we start looking into, well, let's just look into and do the healing, but we have to understand, everybody has to understand that not only is love not necessarily useful in solving all problems, right? Sometimes a problem requires something that's not love to be solved, like putting in a healthy boundary or so, but also, and this is the paradox that so many of us are dealing with, and actually does act as an obstacle to receiving and accepting the flow of love, and that is that in this world, in our human existence, in our human world, it's possible for someone to love another person and also hurt them. Oh. It's possible to be hurt by someone who says they love you. So I think that's important to address that, because the thing is, if that anywhere there are any impressions or memory patterns or past experiences of being hurt by someone that you loved or that said they loved you, then that can cause some scar tissue, some emotional scar tissue to build up in the system. Yeah, and I think that's probably pretty much happened to everybody at some point or another. So but let's look in as no need to jump to conclusions or make assumptions. Let's just take our healing collective here, and we're just going to look at this to clearing the obstacles to experiencing the love of Mother Divine. Yes. And as we do this, it's very important that the quality, the value of this love, yes, I'm looking. because it's, when I look, I'm going, the absolute unmanifest field is here. So as a result, the looking is in no time. I'm like, we're going to look at, oh, we already looked. But anyway, yeah. So it's really, really precious. This value that a lot of you were helping me out last night with the word, because I'd found this quality of love that's super important and is an essential component in our personal relationship with the Mother of Creation. We spend a lot of time looking at our, as individuals, to the whole Mother Divine, and you know how proportionally there's a very dramatic or dynamic difference between the little human body and like everything that is a very big universe. But the quality of love that resonates with each individual is, you all were helping me with terms last night, and I was rereading through our questions, the question and answer box, and one person came up with the word beloved, and that seems to come pretty close. Some of the other words, like I was thinking of the word precious, but sometimes precious can be like a little, like, oh, that's so precious, you know, it can almost be an insult. Oh, it's too precious, you know what I'm saying? It's like too cute or too sweet or something like that. But this quality is very intangible because it comes from such a massive level of creation, but it's so important for us. It fuels the pure potential of us. Like we've been working for a long time with our pure potential, and your pure potential, my pure potential, a person's pure potential is also like Dharma. It's like one of the essential players in our ability to heal, because your pure potential holds the blueprints for the body in its proper form. It holds the memories of the soul from the spirit world before we came into this lifetime, like why you came here, like that's held in your pure potential. And that pure potential is infinite potential, which means when you have stabilized and integrated your own sense of your own pure potential, you have access to the ability to turn things around very quickly. If you have a difficult situation or an illness or something the doctors say, well, we don't know, you're just going to have to live with that or whatever, this is the pure potential has within it the laws of nature or the capability to turn things around. And believe me, I've seen lots of really amazing, miraculous turnarounds. Believe me, this has been years I've been doing this. So another facet, in this webinar, you were here, history in the making. In this webinar, we found that this particular quality of love that comes from Mother Divine directly into and connects directly with the soul of each of us as individuals, this is also a facet of our pure potential. It is also, it's like the fuel. It's like the fuel for the pure potential. It gives you permission to heal. It gives you a permission to fulfill your dreams, because that love elevates your status in relationship to Mother Divine, which is the whole universe, and then some. It elevates your status in relationship to that as being so essential, so essential in that your existence itself provides a key. It provides a key for universal functioning. And I think we went and described that in great detail yesterday. So if not sure, I think I'm going to glaze that one because we've got more questions coming in as we're going, but definitely check yesterday's session because we did go into a bit of detail. And by the way, that might make a good clip for YouTube, that section. All right. So that exquisite, beloved state of grace That's that state of beloved grace. Ah, there's a word. We can use that, beloved grace. Beloved grace. It's working for me. So the English words just weren't quite getting there, you know? But that state of beloved grace, where you are so safe, whatever you do, even if something doesn't work out well, it doesn't matter, because there's this underlying principle that your existence alone is so essential for the creation, that the whole entire of Mother Divine is just holding you like that, like you just be okay, okay? Like, just, this download that came in for everybody's hearts during this 3-minute period of silence is also tying in. And I can feel a kind of purifying, a sort of cathartic purifying also occurring for those individuals who are holding those obstacles in the form of beliefs and self-speech and memory patterns and impressions, attachments, pain bodies. I'm just doing the laundry list for you guys. All the things that I'm mentioning, these are clearing, these are clearing, these are clearing. The purification is more of a feeling, but we can define, oh, this is purifying and that is purifying. If we want to, we can define a little bit that. But the purification is happening at a very deep level of the heart. Feels kind of like that sort of sacred inner chamber of the heart is what's purifying, is the area that's purifying. And deep, deep in there where those beliefs and impressions and memory patterns have been held for so long, of every time that someone offended you or hurt your feelings or said they loved you and then hurt you, or all the different things that can happen, all the different situations, all the different circumstances, all the times you had to get up and move, but you were kind of set where you were and you didn't want to move. And then nature had to give you a little push, Nature gave you a push, not because you're not beloved, not because of your beloved grace, but because of evolution being the evolution of the divine being the primary motivator for all that materializes. All material form is motivated by this thing, which is that the divine is evolving. The divine is evolving through us as us, and that is inescapable. That aspect is, even people escape for a little while, they think, oh, I escaped, and then they find out, no, you got to come back. So it's easier if you know that that's the big story, that's the fundamental underlying aspect of the whole storyline, then you can just align yourself with that. You become part of that story. You become an internal player, a major player, a engaged player in that storyline, and then the whole universe is behind everything you do. And it's clear. We need clarity. That's what we need for this question about the love of Mother Divine not everyone feels. We need the clarity of truth to come with that love so that we can trust the love, right? So that, and the trust and the love is what allows us to receive and accept and integrate it into our pure potential, into our sense of self, of who we are. So the trust is born of knowledge and pure truth, the truth which never changes, the truth that is eternal, that truth. And that is coming in as a download for everyone. I'm looking to see. It's going into the sacred inner chamber of the heart. That truth, that download is coming in. It's also deeply affecting ego. And as we learned last night, ego and sense of self, born of the blueprints that make us up, is also connected to viral intelligence. Oh, so interesting. And if you want to know more about that, you can listen to last night's, everybody gets recordings. Everybody gets all the recordings. All right. That was a great question. I need to keep moving on because we got lots of questions and the clock just keeps ticking. Okay, a note about the effect of love. That most dear Mother Divine Quality, when power went out in a Texas grocery store, HEB, they let everyone leave with their groceries without paying. Oh, that's so sweet. That makes me, that's so beautiful, huh? A person who wrote about this said he noticed that then in the parking lot, everyone was helping everyone else as much more than usual. And I thought, that's what love, kindness, and caring does. Yes, when it's able to reach the surface and it has to integrate though. Integrate and we have to understand, like, this is one of the reasons that this mega storm came and like swept across our country and created situations and conditions where people were out of their normal comfort zone, is very much a part of the shift that's taking place now, which I discussed at the end of yesterday's session. And I'm really excited because we made a connection last night, which I think may have originated right here in our webinars. It was pretty exciting that we talked about the viral connection, because that was last year's, that was what was up for us in 2020, was our relationship with the microbial level of creation. Those of you who didn't see my New Year's predictions from for 2020, you can check that out. But the viruses bring significant and important epigenetic change to our DNA. This is so important. This is so basic. And also, which I'm not sure I mentioned last night, was that viral information is quite ancient. We're doing a course in the mineralogical evolution of the universe. And it's really quite thick. It's kind of quite a thick intellectual thing. We can only go, slowly a course at a time and think about it all. But there's this one episode, there's one lesson where he starts to talk about the transition between, this would be John Hazen. He's like a famous mineralogic, what is he? Anyway, he's a scientist of some sort. Anyway, anyway, he's talking about that critical moment in Earth's history. What was it? Do you remember when it was, Tom? Do you remember the time frame of that critical moment where it's considered? I think it's about 3.5 billion years ago. I think it's considered about 3.5, if I recall from the lesson correctly, where what was on Earth, it was kind of like a big mineralogical soup, that somehow within that soup, some bit of chemical compounds figured out that they could replicate themselves. They were self-replicating. They were able, already at that time, chemical compounds were able to draw on energy from the environment through chemical changes, but then they were able to replicate themselves. And when that happened, that was kind of like a key moment and a key transition between something that was just like a bunch of proteins and organic chemicals and stuff floating around in a kind of watery, mucky soup, to actually having what is life. And at this point, or at least the point that we're taking the course, and I think the course is a few years old, but it was felt that very likely RNA was that first structure, or the first structure was very much like RNA. And the fact that viruses are directly involved in our ability to remember, they affect memory. Like our memory, our ability to have memory is related to viruses. So that also gives us a kind of ancient physical tie-in to the viral connection. Now, there was a reason I was bringing that up, even though as itself is a rather fascinating piece of information, I think. Oh yes, the viruses have changed our DNA. The coronavirus has changed the DNA in like the whole earth, right? Like in the past, viruses would be a little bit isolated here and there. And now we have a virus that just went all over the whole world. So it changed everybody's DNA. And what we're seeing as a result of the change is related to this question, is that we're discovering our ability to function collectively, not just our ability to function collectively like, you know, to organize ourselves, although that is part of the story, but to do so it's the power of our consciousness to function collectively, which is what we've been doing in these webinars for already how many years we've been doing the webinars, which is about 6 years or something. So we've already been doing it. We've been warming up the field. We've been oiling the mechanism in these webinars, working together as a collective to produce effects that benefit our ancestry and benefit not only the ancestral DNA, which also includes viral DNA, but also the viruses, also those which are present in us as part of that process. Because do viruses and other microbial forms not function amazingly well as collectives? Think about it. And they are well aware of their multidimensional nature. So they enter the body through the astral field, generally, and they'll also flag sometimes the astral field, as I've mentioned in the past, so that other viruses go, oh, that person's astral body shows that they're penetrable. I shall go penetrate also. Something like that. Okay. Ah, yes. So there's a desire. Oh, I love you. There's a desire to release that belly, the belly fat, the visceral fat, easily and effortlessly. Thank you for the question. I love you. So, okay. So it's my pleasure to bring this forward, just based on what we've already been talking about. So we're just building off of what we already know. The feeling that is the antithesis of that beloved grace, that antithesis feeling like self-rejection and not liking the body and not good enough and insufficient and unsatisfied and unfulfilled. When that feeling surfaces, it is surfacing specifically for the purpose of being released. Now, at the end of yesterday, we did a healing for that where we flagged all those feelings, both in ourselves, I think, and also the ancestors. I think also ancestors got that. So that whenever those feelings arise, those feelings of I'm not good enough and I don't like myself, and, you know, so many hundreds of years ago, for a lot of us, our ancestors lived in a world where God was up there and we were down here and we were nothing compared to, you know, and we were sinners and we were disposable. That's part of the story, is how do we deal with those blocks of feelings? Because as the fat cells dissolve, they're little storage units, and they not only hold material like energy, but they also hold feelings. They hold subtle, they're multidimensional. They hold the multidimensional imbalances, including all these discordant feelings. And again, there'll be memory patterns and impressions and things like that as well. And so as the fat cells dissolve, those feelings start to come up more and more and more. And so I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who you start a diet and the first few days you're doing pretty good, you lose some pounds, it's pretty all right. And then after a week or 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you get into 4 weeks, and it's like the weight of the emotional baggage that comes forward is just so burdensome that, and one knows, well, if I just eat a little bit of something that's very rich and sweet, I will not feel these emotions. So there's a tendency to go in that direction. However, the organ that regulates appetite is in the third ventricle of the brain. It's called the arcuate nucleus. And it sits in there along with a whole bunch of other organs that regulate a whole bunch of other things like body temperature and sexual appetite, and of course, The pituitary is right up in that area that regulates all your hormones, and the pineal gland is up there that regulates the sleep cycles. And so there's all these little, it's like a little control center, and it's right up back in there. And what I discovered since the last webinar, so this is new information for everyone, but it delighted me, it was another piece of the puzzle, another piece of the weight loss puzzle, and that was that if any one of those regulating mechanisms goes out of whack, it can cause the other ones to also go out of whack, which is why sometimes if you're really tired and you didn't get a good enough night's sleep, you'll go around during the day eating because you keep thinking, oh, well, if I just put more fuel inside me, I'll have more energy, right? But of course it doesn't work. I mean, it just makes, yeah, right? Right. Yeah, lots of hands going up there. So what do we do? Let's do a healing. Let's do a healing for our third ventricle, shall we? We love our third ventricle. Mother Divine loves our third ventricle. And we can bring in that, okay. So every part of the body has an overseeing intelligence. I call that, with the Vedic term, Devata. But it really means a kind of angelic presence. So your liver has its angelic presence, and your vocal mechanism has its angelic presence, and your third ventricle has its angelic presence. And that angelic presence, right now, for everyone desiring, is being integrated with blessed, with beloved grace, and with that aspect of the causal, because the overseeing intelligence of the Devata, of your different organs, are also causal forms. So you've got your causal body, and down in the causal body, there is this area for that love of the mother of creation, that love of Mother Divine, and all the laws of nature are there supporting and enhancing and providing and sustaining that love for you and in your pure potential. But what we're doing is we're bringing together that with the overseeing intelligence of the third ventricle of the brain, because if all of the regulating mechanisms need to be good. This is what I figured out since the last webinar, that it's not enough to do a healing just for the arcuate nucleus. Because the arcuate nucleus could feel fine and feel really strong. And then the pineal gland goes out because you weren't getting enough sleep. And then it's like, well, who around here is strong that can take up the slack? Oh, you, arcuate nucleus, you pick up the slack. It's like, no, wait, I was doing fine regulating the appetite. So they all have to come into balance. So this is a healing not just for appetite and for supporting your ability to feel so beloved. Oh, there was another realization, and that was that there a lot of the organs in the third ventricle of the brain are not fully understood by modern scientists yet. There are a lot of the really little things, you know, these little tiny little dots inside our brain, right? But I am certain that either there's a specific one, or there could be like a synergistic combination of those regulating organs. Not being a neuroscientist, thank you, I'm being a little vague here, but that their job is to regulate emotional balance. Oh, because how many people had the experience of like doing something or facing some situation that was emotionally challenging, and then thinking, if I eat something sweet, that's going to make me feel better, you know, right? Right? So yeah, lots of hands go up, all the hands go up, right? Yeah, so this is the thing, is that we're doing this healing. But so how are we doing the healing? Exactly, mechanics. Awareness goes to the third ventricle. The third ventricle of your brain is a little area. It's about, it's kind of like about that big. And it's right in the smack in the center. And it's right above the brainstem where you make dopamine. And so make you feel good. It makes you feel good, right? Because the dopamine production is right there. So you've got the brainstem like this, and you've got the third ventricle, like if we're looking this way, right? So I've got my brainstem's coming up here, and then my third ventricle is just right in front of it like that. So getting the awareness in there to the third ventricle. And you notice when you put your awareness into the third ventricle, already the third ventricle starts to go, ooh, it's like a little massage, right? Just like if you feel like, oh, somebody's looking at me, and then you turn around, they're looking at you, because awareness touches whatever it goes to. So we're touching our third ventricle in there. And all the little regulating organs are going, woo! And they each have their little devata, right? The arcuate nucleus and the pineal gland and the pituitary and all the others that are in there whose names I have not memorized. They all have their little intelligences. And all we're doing is settling our awareness back into, we touch, and then we go back to the source of creation. And then we just allow the flow of love to come forward, because we've already done the healings for the flow of love, right? So the love of Mother Divine just fills up that space. And what this is going to feel like as we're doing it, I'll just let you feel it for a minute. It's delicious, isn't it? It's absolutely delicious. Who needs to eat food? This is just delicious. I love you guys. I love this question so much, so much, so much. If any people who have, any of the listeners today have issues with weight, but have had a time in their life when they were not overweight, you might recall feeling delicious and feeling beloved. That one of the things that lots of hands go up. Yeah, one of the things that allows you to eat in a way that you feel satisfied and you feel like you're eating everything that you need and that you're getting what you want, but at the same time, eating the amount that is appropriate to sustain the body at the most healthy weight, was that feeling of being completely safe in your skin, being completely beloved, completely precious, completely adored. I have another theory on that that's related to planetary influences, but it's not, it just started rising this morning. It's not evolved enough. Another piece of that puzzle. So I hope to bring that out in a future webinar. But for now, I just want to say to all of you, may you be in that state of being beloved always, always. And when you find yourself in that state always, and that's that beloved, it's like right in the middle of the brain. We think of it like, oh, it's like an angel guide that's with me who's producing this air of being beloved around me, but really yourself producing it within your own brain. Sometimes things, it's like there's a reflective relationship between what happens in here and what happens out here. So you experience it in both places. This integrates it. It integrates. Lots of hands going up. I love you guys. All right. So may everybody who watched today's webinar start shedding those pounds. Who wants to? Of course. Not for those who are trying to put on weight. If you're trying to put it on, if you're really working to put it on, may you put on weight. Because everybody needs. Yes, there are 2 webinars, and yes, both are being recorded, and yes, you will receive both recordings. Thanks for the question. When I touch into the divine, the experience is expansive. At some point, often, after only a few moments, the conditioned self that identifies with separation and fear manages to eclipse the expansion. How might we fully rest in and trust the expansiveness of the divine? Beautiful, beautiful question. Okay, so this is a process of going back and forth between the physiology and consciousness. It's born, it's cultivated. It's cultivated through through this sort of wave-like motion of having the expansion of consciousness and then integrating the expansion of consciousness with the physiology, particularly the nervous system. Oh, why we did the healing for the third ventricle of the brain in addition there. Yeah, so what happens, it's not something that, because as humans, in human bodies. We are working with a very kind of broad spectrum of the field of manifestation. If we were angels, if we were just some of those beautiful kind of abstract regions, and that was as far as because all bodies come from the source of creation, right? So some bodies come up just like that, and that's where they live, right? And some bodies come up like this, up into maybe the astral level, so causal and astral. Maybe some bodies come up to the emotional level like that. But we as humans, we come all the way up into the physical level. So if we were just angels like that, that loop is going on all the time. And those very, very subtle physiologies that are made of just like mostly just consciousness, they can integrate very quickly. And as a result, sometimes those aspects of creation that don't rise up into the full material relative tend to get a little apathetic about the whole thing because that life is just bliss. Which is another reason why we have such an important role to play in this creation. Because our bodies embrace all those bodies. We think, oh, angels are something outside myself. No, angels are part of your causal body. And because you're human, you own that region. That region is your body. So the integration happens by degrees, and it happens at different speeds, at different layers of density. It can happen very, very quickly at the angelic level of creation. Although due to the apathy there, it doesn't always happen that quickly. Because, I mean, if you're already in heaven, like what's to do? You know, close the eyes and transcend. What? It's so beautiful. But the integration as it occurs at the denser levels of the physiology, it takes a little more time because of the nature of the way the 5 elements, we interact with the 5 elements. That is space, air, fire, water, and earth, right? At the dense level, there's this kind of dynamic exchange between the consciousness itself and the 5 elements, how they manifest. And of course, the 5 elements also have their Davic reality, right? They have their subtle reality. But this is what the human experience, when it's perfectly coupled to the divine experience, is all about. It's all about how to complete and resolve ever more fully that relationship between the unmanifest and the manifest. So sometimes if you feel that you lose that connection to wholeness, it just means that you're kind of more at the outward stroke of the cycle of the process of integration, which is going on continuously. And it means when you notice that you're more like on the surface, it means when you have the actual thought, oh, I seem to have kind of lost touch with or lost track of that more divine level, that's the time to take a little bit to step back a little bit and take the dive back in again. Because each time we go through the cycle, more and more of totality or wholeness integrates with the physiology, with the physical form, and you will get faster. And the exercise that I put up, I talked about it last night, and it will be being posted on my website. I'm thinking of posting it under the anger blog, but it maybe will go somewhere. It could go on its own as well. But that, how do we deal with negativity when it arises, or how do we deal with the purification? That process I've talked about. This webinar I talked last one, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. We've got a lot of questions going on here, but you can look at that. That's a free offering, and that's also super helpful because, and we did healing for it yesterday as well. So definitely check that as well. Thank you for that beautiful question, because I bet a lot of people have that experience, right? Sometimes I'm like all enlightened style, and then other times I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, lots of hands go up, lots of hands go up. See, we're not alone. It's actually part of the process that we're in. But for us to enhance the integration as a collective, that is why we're here. Okay, we must do that. So we're going now as a collective. We're looking at it as a collective. And we're feeling into that integrated integration process. And how do we cultivate the qualities? What holds it back is any impurities or imbalances in the nervous system, the physical body. So, because the absolute is already there. So it has to be the physical body. So what I'm offering to the being, I'm getting to be the mouth for all of us, is the question is, how could we as a collective working together affect a change or support healing, energy healing for all of us and all of our physiologies to enhance the ability of everyone's nervous system to integrate wholeness more efficiently, to optimize the integration of wholeness? How can we do that? What can we do? What do we need to do? And as that's offering into the source of creation, the first thing I'm feeling is a movement that's kind of moving through the cord of light. And it is there's a beautiful, nuanced emotion there. And it's very much a kind of a desire. It's a desire is moving through the physiology. So we're going to take that desire and we're going to follow it back to its seed. And that means back to the causal level, right next to the absolute. And the reason we do that, based on the last webinar set, which was on fulfilling desires, as you all might recall, that if we pick up a desire just as it emerges from the absolute, it comes forth as not a wave of lacking and desire and I want something, it comes forth as a wave of fulfillment. Total, complete fulfillment, because the source of creation is a field of absolute, complete fulfillment. So at the beginning, as that wave emerges, it emerges as an expression of fulfillment. And if we pick it up there, as that wave of fulfillment rises to the surface, it rises to the surface as an intention which is gathering its resources, so that when it comes to the surface, it comes forth fully blossomed and fully ready, emerges as great fulfillment, rather than what most people do is we pick up the desire somewhere along the spectrum. And as that fulfillment comes into the spectrum of manifestation, just as a quick recap, it starts as a little desire and it becomes intensified as it reaches the surface. And then at some point, it either manifests at the surface as finally I got that thing that I want. I remember for years I wanted a potter's wheel. I wanted it so much. And it took me years and years to raise the money to get the potter's wheel. I didn't have a place to put it. I haven't used it since. Well, so sometimes desires come like that, right? Because it's like a desire that you're picking it up at the surface, right? And that was a past life that wanted that thing. Anyway, yeah, but when it comes up like this as an intention born of fulfillment, that's it. So we're following that desire in our collective for all, whatever healing needs to be done for our physiologies, particularly our nervous systems, to allow us to integrate wholeness or optimize the integration of wholeness. All right, I am telling you what I'm seeing. There's a flow of light and it's coming through Earth. And it's coming up into the cord of light, and it's expanding. And as it expands into the physiology, it starts at the body starts to really feel it at the pelvic floor. It obviously comes through the earth chakras as well. But at the pelvic floor, it kind of opens up, and it comes up the body in a sort of maybe like a vortex-y type of shape. It's either we can think of it as radiating up like this, or we could think of it as swirling up like that. And this light energy is a light medicine, which is born of our earth. So it's a gift. And it's a flow of energy directly from Mother Divine, but as filtered through the intelligence of our earth, and it's coming up through our bodies. And our bodies are being received. It's a validation from earth for each person in this healing session as an instrument for All right. I'm going to try to say this to you guys. You know, it comes out abstract and then we have to go to the concrete. All right. So we know that our bodies produce soma that help our bodies live and exist in a really healthy manner. But as a collective, we can produce a byproduct of the processing of experience. So this isn't so much like a physical byproduct of digestion is soma, and we could say food is physical experience for the body. But this is, as individuals and as a collective, we're doing this both at an individual and a collective level, our healing collective here, as a byproduct of processing the experience that we have, and that's this light as it's coming up from Mother Earth. She's communicating to us what she needs from our, the gift that comes through our physiology as a byproduct of being, just your existence alone. It is a transformation of the way we process our experience, the way we understand our experience, so that the byproduct of that understanding produces a very subtle material that is then used by Mother Earth to support us. I'm just feeling it while it's happening. There's a lot of back and forth right now. There's also a lot of love going back and forth. And everyone's hearts expanding open and pouring and filtering that processing of experience. And it's like there's so much resource in the universe, and that this alignment with us is supporting our ability to also access vast resources. So what we gain in return for being the instruments by virtue of our existence, being instruments of support for Mother Earth, we receive access to tremendous wealth of all kinds of resources, knowledge resources, but also energy resources, and also resources related to the 5 elements. Because the key, everybody here, the key to being able to perform siddhis, that's going to be another Vedic term that you may not be familiar, but that means to be able to create a lot of effects from your consciousness that maybe at this time on Earth would be considered not real or magic or outside the range of human potential. Those keys are part of the resources that we are gaining. Can't wait. I can't wait to see you all. I can't wait to see you all in a few more weeks, and how everybody's going to be amazing, looking amazing, feeling amazing, your finances amazing, your relationships amazing. Oh, one sweet lady is, how do I feel more love and joy? There's several free offerings on my knowledge base. And also, if you look under free offerings, I think you find of techniques, energy healing techniques to produce love and joy. But one of the big ones is the digestive technique, because 50% of the neurochemicals in our body that make us feel good come from our gut. And of course, you know, diet is also part of that story, but there's a beautiful exercise on my knowledge base that will uplift your mood almost immediately. It's called Digestive Mastery. You can look it up. Or can we add that link? Just add it. We'll add it when we send the links out. When we send out the videos, we'll send you that link too. And it takes just a few seconds, and it's so amazing. It's so lovely. It really helps people feel better about themselves. Your gut bacteria make you feel good. So you gotta take care of them, but on the level of consciousness, right? I just want to comment once in this lady lives in Croatia, where the Mother Mary appears. You know, I'm not sure I can say the name of it right. Medjugorje. Anyway, in this place where the apparition of Mother Mary appears, she had the experience when she was praying to Mother Mary that she dived into the ocean of bliss and love and heard in her mind, only love is important. Oh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. Will we, in unity consciousness, have that open flow 24 hours? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Even in the moments when changes are required or you have something difficult task ahead of you or anything. Absolutely. And the fact that you experience it means that it's already an integral part of you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for being with me. That's a mommy with little children. She's taken time away from being a mommy to be with us. You're already Mother Divine. You are Mother Divine. So bless you. You're blessing our whole collective with your presence. Thank you for being here. Your description of the purification happening within our heart center reminds me of what we're doing now after all the frozen pipes. Yeah, and water pressure Texas, letting water flow so that huge gobs of corroded pipe are flowing out of our spigots and clearing them. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that also brings us to the fact that, again, I think it's very important what we're doing as a collective as well as individuals at this point. In these webinars, we are pioneers. We're moving ahead in an area that the whole collective is joining us. And as I mentioned before, through the events that have occurred around the intense weather conditions that came immediately on the tail of this big financial thing, which I referenced yesterday, because I was, what's today? Today's Saturday, so it was like on Thursday, there was a federal court hearing, and it was huge history in the making, and it's still going on. I think there's going to be like 2 more court hearings, and they're making a movie about it. I mean, this is like major history in the making, and the weather conditions came right on the tail of, actually right in the midst of this whole thing. And all of this validation of the fact that what we're really looking at here is, how do we as a collective move our consciousness? How do we move our awareness in such a way together, like united be your minds, harmonious be your feelings, right? That's out of the Vedas, that we move in this way to produce the big effects. And that's what was so thrilling about that court case. I didn't watch the whole 5 hours, but it was very much predicted that the case was going to come out in a certain way. And it very much, the collective, it was going to be against the common man, against the individual. It was very much predicted it was going to be like that. And instead, the common man and the individual were there watching. There were 80,000 people watching. And now it's probably over 1 million people have watched that thing. And it came out, the leaders made choices and decisions in alignment with collective intent. It was huge. This was huge. This was even the fact, the underpinnings of the case, like the origins of it, were also an expression of unified collective intent. Unified collective intent. So it's like we're going, oh, as a culture, as a society, we're looking at these historical events and going, oh, if we unify ourselves, it's very important that the highest values of intelligence and truth, transparency, fuel the movement of the collective so that only life-supporting effects come out. Because now we see how powerful we are. We're really powerful. All right, my beautifuls. So many, a download for the innocence of a child in mother's lap. Oh, it's so sweet. I'm gonna do this one more, even though we're over time, just because it's so sweet. Can we make a download for the innocence of a child in mother's lap, since love, trust, and innocence are the key ingredients for this path? In my understanding, I agree with you. They are. Let's just end with that. So we're just going to have that as the intention and drop that intention into the wholeness of being. I love the way your question sums up the most important healings of our whole session, right? That beloved grace, beloved, and it going into your pure potential and affecting sense of self, like knowing you deserve to heal. You deserve to be a healthy physical weight. You deserve your desires fulfilled. We all. So we're just allowing that download to just manifest for everyone. And that one is coming right in through from the universe, through every pore of the universe. This concept that this love and the grace of Mother Divine is in every small particle of the universe. So it's almost like a kind of energetic breathing. We just breathe it in. It fills the whole body, it fills every pore, it fills every cell, it fills every portion of the self, it fills every particle of oneself. That immense love, that immense love. And of course, we all know when the child is on mother's lap, the mother is the one whose heart feels healed, right? So reflecting that back to the source of creation, reflecting it back to Mother Divine. And that's interesting. Sometimes in our healings, we'll have an experience, then we'll like drop that experience back into the field of infinite being. But it's an interesting concept that we could actually we could offer the experience to the whole field, both the absolute and the relative. Oh, and this is related to the enhancement of our ability to experience. Remember that came from Mother Earth, that whole thing? Yes, so this is it. This is because no part of the material field is outside the absolute. Everything is permeated with absolute, unmanifest, eternal divine being. Every particle. Ooh, so that's very integrative. It's a big integration between the absolute and the relative. Very big integration. And it's a dynamic and happening right here, guys, right here, right now in our healing webinar it is a change in the way we handle our experience. When we're having that level of experience that normally we would drop it into the field of being directly, now it's able to radiate or emanate into every particle of the field, into being as it exists in its silent unmanifest form, and being as it exists as the entire dynamic field of creation. So powerful. That's so much more powerful. It's so much more powerful, you guys, and it's so much more integrative. Good job. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I took one more question. Thank you so much for that beautiful question. Amazing, amazing. All right, you guys. So still there are a lot of questions, and there's still questions here too. I'm sorry I didn't answer everybody's questions. They were such good questions, amazing questions. So I'll see what I can do. Sometimes, a couple times ago, I was able to make a bonus video and answer all the questions. If I can, I will, but I'm traveling next week to see my mother-in-law, my dear mother-in-law, who's 100. And so I don't want to miss that. So I might be like on vacation sort of without all my recording studio and equipment. So it might be a little while. Maybe I'll record when I get back. All right. I'll do what I can. I love you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for all the amazing, incredible healings and insights that I got to enjoy today because I was with you. Incredible. You're incredible. You guys are incredible. Thank you for being with me. We will do it again in 3 weeks. Thank you, everybody. See you again soon. Bye-bye.